Hey, small business leaders. JustWorks gives you peace of mind knowing that payroll will run smoothly, your team has access to benefits that fit their needs and fit your budget, and your business is getting the support it needs, always. Take a look at JustWorks transparent pricing by visiting justworks.com/pricing. That's justworks.com/pricing for details.
This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 2368. We Should Have Rented Instead of Buying by Amanda Kruse of WomenWhoMoney.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. Welcome back to Optimal Finance Daily, where I'm here with you each and every day, reading from some of the world's best personal finance blogs. And with that, let's get right to today's article as we optimize your life. We Should Have Rented Instead of Buying by Amanda Kruse of WomenWhoMoney.com. No one likes to waste money. When Alan and I were newly married, we thought renting was a waste of our money, and we didn't have that much money, so of course we wanted to stop throwing it away. But our misguided beliefs on renting versus buying led us to buy a house before we were ready and before we could truly afford it. We dove into home ownership far too soon in 2 instances. In the end, we spent thousands more than if we'd rented longer. This article shares our story and why we should have continued to rent instead of buying a house. The idea that rent is a waste of money. We bought into the adage that renting is a waste of money. I can't say precisely where it came from, family, friends, or society. But no matter, it was there, and to us, buying a home felt like an urgent financial matter. There's some rationale there. In certain circumstances, buying can make more sense than renting. Becoming a homeowner might make sense if the mortgage payment costs much less than rent. You know you'll live there for several years, or you plan to pay off the mortgage. Yet some folks buy a home because they consider it an investment. That was us. While it's true that real estate can appreciate, it usually doesn't rise much more than inflation. And in most cases, it shouldn't be a primary reason for buying over renting. But we were young and didn't think it through. We wanted to own a home, so we rationalized it by considering it an investment. Plus, it felt less wasteful than rent since the principal payment helped pay off the house. This thinking led us to purchasing 2 homes within a year to avoid rent. But in the end, it cost us much more than renting. Why? Most of all, we didn't understand the hidden costs of buying and owning real estate. Also, we had to move within 3 months of buying house number 1 and rushed to buy house number 2 in the new location. In hindsight, neither home made financial nor logistical sense. 2 homes in 1 year. We were fresh out of college and newly married when we bought house number 1. We thought it made financial sense, but also we were impatient to be homeowners. We didn't fully understand the costs besides the mortgage payment, and they added up. For example, there were realtor fees, property taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, and more. But we weren't at all prepared for those hidden expenses. House number 1. We had little savings, so we had a small down payment. On top of that, the loan was a 7/1 adjustable rate mortgage with private mortgage insurance or PMI. Ouch. After 3 months, Alan got a new job in a new city and we put the house up for sale. Thankfully, we sold the house in a couple of months and the company paid our moving expenses, including realtor fees. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to afford the move. House number 2. We were unfamiliar with the new city and couldn't find anything comparable to house number 1, but we felt rushed to find a new home fast, and we still wanted to avoid renting, so we settled for house number 2. But soon after, our first child was born and we felt squeezed for space, so we put house number 2 on the market. Unfortunately, we paid a few $1,000s to sell house number 2 for realtor fees. This mistake cost us part of a down payment on house number 3, putting us further in debt. Why we should have kept renting. Number 1, better cash flow. Our mortgage payment was more than rent. Property taxes and homeowners insurance bumped up the monthly costs. And since we had a small down payment, we had private mortgage insurance or PMI on top of that. If we had kept renting, we would have had more monthly cash flow. Number 2, to save more. That is opportunity cost. What if we saved all the money spent on down payments, PMI, homeowners insurance, repairs, and maintenance? Renting longer would have given us time to save an emergency fund. Plus, it might have allowed us to afford a home that better fit our needs later. Number 3, to take on less risk. Little savings, a variable interest loan, and PMI add up to a considerable financial risk. If emergency expenses popped up, we would have been in trouble. Also, if Alan's company hadn't paid our moving expenses for house number 1, he would have passed up a great career opportunity because we wouldn't have been able to afford to move. Number 4, to be more flexible. To our credit, we planned on staying in both homes longer, but we were young and things changed fast. As a result, we only lived in house number 1 for 3 months and house number 2 for 16 months. Renting would have allowed us to be flexible with our finances and location, so we could have had more savings and moving would have been much more manageable. But unfortunately, in both situations, having to sell a house complicated everything, and if we hadn't been able to sell, we would have been stuck. And number 5, to lower stress. To say that buying and selling a home is stressful is an understatement. We learned a lot going through the process, but it was nerve-wracking. Some thoughts were, what if we can't sell the house? What if we had a major repair? What if we experience job loss? And what if we can't afford to move? Closing thoughts. Buying a home can and does make sense for many people. It's a place of your own and it builds equity. But it's not for everyone, and it doesn't always make sense. We became homeowners too soon, and it cost us in many ways. We're fortunate to have gotten through that relatively unscathed. And though it worked out in the end, it could have been devastating to our finances. Happily, we eventually recovered and raised our kids in house number 3. You just listened to the post titled, "We Should Have Rented Instead of Buying" by Amanda Kruse of womenwhomoney.com.
Hey, small business leaders. JustWorks gives you peace of mind knowing that payroll will run smoothly, your team has access to benefits that fit their needs and fit your budget, and your business is getting the support it needs, always. Take a look at JustWorks transparent pricing by visiting justworks.com/pricing. That's justworks.com/pricing for details.
Did you know that even if you have health insurance, you could still be overpaying for your prescription medications? Before you fill your next prescription, just checking GoodRx may help you beat your copay price. GoodRx is the fast and free way to save up to 80% on the price of your prescriptions. All you need to do is search for your medication on the GoodRx website or app and show your discount at the pharmacy counter. It's that easy. Not to mention, GoodRx doesn't just work for new prescriptions. It can help you save big on all your refills too. You know how much frugality means to me and how many ways I try to save, but never before have I seen a way to save on prescriptions. I've really loved GoodRx. It's extremely easy even for the older members of my family that I've recommended it to. So for simple, smart savings on your prescriptions, check GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/OFD. That's goodrx.com/OFD. goodrx.com/OFD. In my area, real estate prices are inflated, so I wouldn't buy now, but I'm glad I bought my house in 2018. I've seen data that supports that on average over long periods of time, renting and owning work out to be about the same cost-wise. With owning, your mortgage is the least amount you will pay per month. Your property taxes will continue to go up, and you're on the hook for maintenance and large repairs, like a roof, HVAC, etc. But you could potentially lock in a low interest rate if you buy at the right time, and you don't have many of the same restrictions as renting. With renting, your rent is the most you will pay, but you face the reality of being priced out by rising rents. So for example, in New York City, I had to move almost every year because the rent went up $100. You might also disagree with your landlord on required maintenance, like when one of my New York City landlords refused to get an exterminator for our roach problem. It can be harder to rent with pets. I now have 3. and you're restricted on making the place your own. For example, often you're not permitted to paint, etc. Buying a primary residence is a lifestyle choice, not an investment. I think the issue is that most people make the choice to buy before they're financially ready, and so the costs become unmanageable. Not only should you have the 20% down payment and be able to afford the mortgage and property taxes, but you should have the cash reserves to deal with the large expenses that come up. I think buying a house is the last thing you should do. First, get out of high interest debt, save your cash reserves, get a good head start on retirement investments, and then buy a house if it's really that important to you. But this whole cultural norm around homeownership is very misguided in my opinion. And that should do it for today. Thank you for being a subscriber or follower of the show and sharing it with others. It really goes a long way to keep this podcast going. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.